Hi, I'm Jim Johnstone. I'm the president of Johnstone Global Consulting Services. Before I started my own business, I worked at Applied Materials as their senior director of supplier engineering and development. My team and I visited hundreds of suppliers all over the world. We had to audit their quality management systems and help them improve those quality management systems and bring them up to our standard. Now, in my own business, I help suppliers improve their quality management systems so that they can satisfy their customers and win new business from new customers. They often ask me to help them with their supplier quality audit preparation. And one thing I noticed is, even though they have a great quality management system, they don't always know how to get the story across. So I prepared this short presentation to help them get prepared for their customer audits. I hope it helps you too.
So here's your problem. The customer's coming for that all-important quality management system audit. You want to put your best foot forward, demonstrate solid management commitment to your quality system, and you want to come across as being very comfortable, relaxed, and confident that you've got a good quality management system. To do that, you have to have a plan, and that's what I'm going to give you. First, explain to everyone why the audit is being done. Customers audit suppliers to assess their capability. They want confidence that suppliers will consistently deliver products and services that meet their requirements. And if they find any areas of weaknesses, which they will, they expect improvement. So let's look forward to the audit as a way to learn what we can do better to meet our customers' needs. Second, you've got to have a plan for the audit. Decide what you want to get from the audit and find out what the auditor needs to get from the audit. Work with the auditor to lay out an agenda in advance. Now, on this agenda, you want to identify who's going to be the responder for each of the elements in the audit. You also want to learn about the auditor and what their needs might be. Make sure that you have somebody appointed to host and guide the auditors around your plant and be present during every audit interview. Set up your opening and closing meetings. Who's going to be invited to them? Make sure you have a room big enough with all the things that you need so the auditor and you can do your presentations. It's always a good idea to arrange a private meeting before and after the audit between the auditor and the senior manager at the site. This gives them a chance to have a confidential discussion about either what they want to get out of the audit or things that were observed during the audit that maybe the auditor doesn't want to share in the closing meeting or the final report. You should plan for daily feedback from the guides and host so that you know exactly how the audit is progressing. Allow time at the end of every day to answer unanswered auditor questions. So sometimes the auditor is going to be interviewing and the person's not going to have the data, not going to have the information necessary that they need to answer the question. It might take a little time to collect that, but make sure you get back within 24 hours to the auditor with the data that they ask for. Review all your procedures and policies for the area that's being audited. Make sure they're available during the audit. Tip number 3. You want to have a really great kickoff meeting to get your audit off to a good start. A lot of companies don't do this, but I'm recommending that you do it. Have your senior manager give an overview of the facility, its products, the customers or industries served. Have them go over the quality policy, the organization chart, the organization's quality goals, along with data that shows how well you're performing to those goals. Have the manager review customer satisfaction data. Now, this is a very important part of a successful audit, but the nice thing about this presentation is you can use it whenever a potential customer comes to visit your site as well. So put the time in it to make it first class. At the end of this presentation, have the senior manager introduce the quality representative, which is the senior quality manager for the site, responsible for carrying out the quality policy and implementing the quality management system on the site. That's who you want then to answer the auditor questions. Tip number 4, you've got to coach the people that are being audited. Auditors are looking for management commitment to quality, a systemic approach, deployment of that approach, and evidence of its effectiveness and efficiency. They find this by talking to your workers. So you've got to coach your workers how to be audited. Each auditee should be prepared to explain what they do. A flowchart or SIPOC is really handy for this. They should have their written procedures available to them and out so that they can share them with the auditor. They should be able to describe what job training they might have had or what qualifications are required to do this job. They really need to know the quality characteristics of the product or service that they provide, and they should know their department quality goals and how they're doing to those goals. What quality records are taken at their workstation? What data is there that shows performance trends versus the goals? Auditees should practice explaining charts and graphs that they have on data towards their goals so that they're comfortable when the auditor comes. Auditees should only answer the questions that they're asked by the auditor and not volunteer more information. If they're not sure of the question, they should ask for definition of terms that they don't understand. Now, you want your answers to refer back to procedures and/or quality data. These must be readily accessible and up to date. Practice explaining the charts and the graphs and the reasons for any unusual variations in any data graphs that you have. When asked how to improve the process, describe projects that are already underway. These are the ones that you're familiar with. It's not a good time to volunteer an idea that you have that you hadn't shared with your manager. Now, managers, the way you make sure that doesn't happen is you solicit employee ideas for improvement all the time so that you have a backlog of projects to be started. Remind auditees that, I don't know, I'll have to ask my manager, is a much better answer than guessing, and they don't have to fill in gaps of silence if the auditor is not talking.
Tip number 5. Remember, for follow-up audits, we don't need to go over everything that was done before. We only need to show what has been done to close the findings noted in the prior audit. On the next slide, I'm going to show you how to effectively do this. What you want to do is show the details about what changes were made in the management system and data to demonstrate its effectiveness. So here's a simple little slide that you can use when you're having a follow-up audit. The purpose of a follow-up audit is to confirm that you've actually taken corrective action in response to a finding. At the top of this slide, we have the audit that the finding occurred in and the date. So this was a QMS audit of June 2012. The organization area, that would be the name of the organization like purchasing or quality or logistics that was responsible for taking the corrective action. The finding number and a short name for it, and then a more detailed description of the finding and whatever the standard was that you failed to meet. Below that, you're going to see the actions taken to assure the compliance. So in this case, a procedure was changed, the staff was retrained, and we began collecting data, which we cover at our regular management reviews. On the right-hand side is a graph of the data that was collected. The time is on the horizontal axis, so we had 4 periods of data, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we were tracking defects per period. And you can see they started at 6 and then began to come down after the changes were made. So that demonstrates effectiveness of the corrective action. Tip number 6, the closing meeting. During the closing meeting, your job is to listen very carefully, make sure you understand everything the auditor is telling you, what are the basis for any findings, ask for clarifications on anything you don't understand, and take careful notes. Now, if there's some things that you don't agree with, just make notes of those and submit a response in writing to the auditor within about 24 to 48 hours of the closing meeting. This is not the time to get into an argument with the auditor. You don't want to embarrass them. You don't want to make any ill will between you. And they have plenty of opportunities to revise their final report before they issue it. And all you want to do is make sure that you've given them something to consider in writing that might affect that revision. Tip number 7, good follow-up is what's going to make the difference between an excellent company and a so-so company. You want to follow up on all of the findings and opportunities for improvement. So what is a finding? A finding is where something you're doing deviates from a standard. What's the standard? The standard is usually spelled out either in the customer's contract or an international standard or an industry standard, such as ISO 9001. Each finding needs to be assigned an owner and a due date. You've got to set up frequent management reviews to make sure progress is made to get these findings closed and the corrective action taken and proven effective before the next audit. So remember, after you implement a corrective action, you're going to take data to prove that your corrective action was effective. An opportunity for improvement is just that. It's a way for you to become better. The auditor may have noticed something that he thinks you can improve on. It's not a finding, that is, it's not a deviation to the standard, but maybe it's a way for you to become more efficient. You should analyze all these opportunities for improvement and then prioritize them. And the way you can prioritize them is by looking at 3 things. How easy are they to adopt? How often would you have the chance to realize a savings? And how big would the savings be? So if you got something that happens frequently, it's easy to get corrected, and you could generate a big savings, it would be something you'd want to adopt. Now, you have 3 outcomes with an opportunity for improvement. You may choose to adopt it just the way it's written, or you may adapt it, make a small change that makes it better for your business, or you could ignore it. Whatever you do, keep the list and write down the reasons that you made the decision that you made. So if the auditor comes back the next time and said, what did you do with these opportunities for improvement? You can explain which ones were adopted, which ones were adapted, and which ones you ignored. All right, let's go through a quick summary. You're going to explain the purpose of the audit to everybody. And the purpose of the audit is so that you can learn something that helps you improve your business. Second, you're going to put an audit plan together. Who's going to do the auditing? Who's going to be audited? When are they going to be audited? We're going to have an opening meeting and a closing meeting. In your first meeting after the opening meeting, you're going to have a senior management presentation. Fourth, you want to coach all the auditees. Everybody who's going to come in contact with that auditor needs to be coached on how to respond to auditor questions. If you have a follow-up audit, you're going to explain what the finding was and what you did about it. You're going to show evidence to prove that whatever you did was effective. Sixth, at the closing meeting, take notes. Make sure you understand the basis of the findings. And then follow up. Make sure every finding has an owner and every finding gets closed. So that's all there is. Pretty easy, huh? You can do much better in your next audit if you just follow these 7 tips. Well, there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation and you find it useful. If you'd like to contact me about any questions in preparing for your audit, you can reach me at jim@johnstonglobal.com. That's jim@johnstonglobal.com. Thanks and have a great day.